Hello there, and welcome to this SAP Operations Transformation Masterclass, focused on managed services providers. My name is Brenton O'Callaghan, and I'm the Chief Customer Officer here at Avantra. In this role, I get the pleasure of hearing firsthand from our customers and partners about how they are evolving their SAP operations workflows to embrace automation, intelligence, and more. And this is exactly what today's session is all about. I'll be speaking about the industry-wide transformation that is accelerating through the managed services world. And based on what we hear from our Avantra community, what are the key topics that will differentiate you for your prospects, reduce your churn, and critically, expand your SAP operations footprint within your existing customer base? All of the topics I'll be covering today come back to three core themes. And what's really interesting is that reducing the cost to serve is not one of them, although that's important as well. These themes are about improving the overall service quality, landing and expanding within your existing customers, and providing a next generation of sophistication within your services to lead the market. As we go through this session, I'll relate the topics back to these themes. The one thing I will say at this point is that if you're not looking at these areas of service quality, how to land and expand in a new way, and providing next generation services, somebody else in your market is. So let's go ahead and get started and help you beat them to the punch. Our first topic is automation first, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Moving your organization from a reactive, let's just fix the issue posture into a proactive way of working. But what does that mean, reactive to proactive? It means getting into a mindset that asks, how do we ensure we never get a ticket or issue like this one again? Typically, the tasks for your teams go through a standard process. There's an event, perhaps a ticket, the team reacts, and there's a solution. As long as you're resolving these issues within your SLA and the customer is not negatively impacted, that's a good response. But it's cyclical. If you continue to successfully resolve to your SLAs, there's no problem, right? But there is. It never gets better. Your baseline activities are comprised of the same issues and same tasks day in and day out. So I'm going to propose a single change as a starting point. What if your processes remained exactly the same but with an additional step? You have an event, a ticket, the team reacts, and there's a solution. But finally, the ticket is categorized and tagged for assessment of automation. It's a very simple change, and one that is an absolute foundational step in moving to an automation-first approach. As more tickets come in, you get to see which ones are coming up again and again, and with this information, you end up with a clear and obvious set of candidate scenarios for automation, which you can review on a weekly or monthly basis. In a recent discussion with one of our MSP partners who adopted this method, they saw a nearly 50% increase in available time for their operations teams after just a single year. That same customer has now moved to the next stage of the process to connect these automations to proactive detection mechanisms. So issues are going through automated remediation without ever reaching the SAP operations team. 50% increase in availability? What could you do in your business with 50% more time? Let's bring it back to the themes. More time to win new business, more time to innovate and bring new services to market, and all while delivering an increasing quality of service. Let's talk about one of those real-world scenarios. Let's say you look after a manufacturing landscape for one of your customers. So we're talking SAP MES combined with a number of non-SAP and SAP systems. Every year, they scale up to meet the demand of their busy period. It might be the holiday season or a product launch. And every year, you're on the hook to ensure the systems are up. By adopting the extra stuff that we talked about earlier, and through the analysis of your tickets, you can see clear and obvious recurring issues. For example, one was at unpredictable intervals, the production line would stop because of something as simple as a label printer controller failing. Of course, in an ideal world, you'd replace it, but that wasn't an option. Each and every time this occurred, it would cause huge delays during manufacturing and knock-on effects down the chain. The time from production stop to resolution via a ticket was about an hour. By the time the ticket was raised, someone picked it up, analysed it, logged in, and rebooted the controller, it took over an hour. The first step to automating this ticket type was trivial. The team built a simple restart automation that could bring the system back up within 30 seconds. This reduced the ticket processing time to less than 5 minutes and the overall downtime to somewhere around 15 minutes. A significant improvement for sure, but not the end of the story. The final piece of the puzzle was to introduce proactive monitoring of that entire set of systems that made up this critical business process. And when that label printer controller failed, the restart automation was triggered immediately with no human involvement, bringing the downtime to less than 30 seconds. In the majority of cases, the issue was no longer even noticed, and production continued unimpeded. Downtime reduction from an hour to nearly nothing, that's a happy customer. But for your operations teams, it was the complete removal of that ticket type from their queue. So when it comes to automation first, start by finding out your top candidates for automation. Introduce that minor extra step of doing the analysis of your ticket queue frequently. Automate what you can, and then start the whole process again. You'll quickly build up a tremendous asset of auto-remediated customer scenarios that has been proven to give teams nearly 50% of their time back. And you get to win more business, you get to spend time innovating and bringing new services to market, all while delivering an increasing quality of service. Our next topic is building and deploying value-add services. And I want to be clear, I don't mean supporting new SAP technologies or introducing support for new products. I'm talking about add-on services, some of which may be chargeable, that make all the difference when it comes to customer experience, confidence, and those topics that will move the needle in your favor when it comes to contract renewals. These are the types of services you can bundle into new or renewal contracts that might cost you next to nothing, but bring serious and tangible value for your customers. They are also the types of services that make you stand out against competition who simply may not be able to deliver a similar service. The easiest way to make this topic real is to talk about some examples. And so I'll talk about one around security, another around customer self-service, and finally, I'll talk about transparency as a differentiator. Security is one of those topics that never goes away, and in fact, it's only growing as a concern area for customers and providers alike. While the security of the network and software may not be directly in the purview of SAP operations teams, we still need to take it seriously and keep ahead of emerging topics. Ensure we know what we have deployed and whether it needs a security patch, whether the system is hardened, and so much more. Every second Tuesday of the month, Patch Tuesday, we get our list from SAP and other software providers as to what needs attention and immediate update. The effort involved in recognizing whether an item is relevant to a landscape or whether action is required is so high. And for many, it's a slow or sometimes even ignored process. Transforming your SAP operations through the use of AIOps so that this information is received, analyzed automatically, that's an absolute game changer and creates a wonderful value-add service opportunity. Imagine that your SAP hot news items are automatically downloaded, affected system highlighted, maintenance windows scheduled, and impact reports prepared for your customers. Not only are you reducing the effort that your teams would have to do, but you're also bringing tremendous value to your customers who will learn to trust and rely on this information to keep their operations secure. The value-add service of proactive, same-day potentially analysis of SAP hot news, including the preparation of impact reports and proposal of downtime windows for an entire landscape, is something that can be brought to each and every customer in your portfolio as either an upsell or increase in service quality to impact your renewal. For customer self-service, embracing automation in how you operate customer landscapes also enables you to provide a new level of self-service options to your customers. One example that comes to mind from one of our MSP partners is around cost savings within the public cloud. Their customer, as part of their cloud journey, had deployed their development systems in the public cloud while the production and QA systems remained on-premise. Their cloud business case was heavily centered around cost reduction, i.e. you could switch off the systems when they're not in use. Now, that's a very common scenario and very doable with simple startup and shutdown automations at the start and end of every day or week. But what about the customer team who decided to work the weekend to make a deadline, but told nobody? Do they raise a ticket asking for the system to be switched on a Saturday morning, maybe to no response? In this case, the customer was provided with a single sign-on and role-based self-service dashboard, allowing their development managers to trigger the startup and shutdown of their development systems, from the application layer of SAP right through to the underlying virtual machine hosted in the cloud, with zero involvement from the MSP teams. Suddenly, the promise of lower cost in the cloud could be realized without any flexibility being lost. Automations don't just have to be for your own teams. There's a world of flexibility that you can bring to your customer experience that can be powered by your investment in AIOps and an automation-first approach. And think about the value-add services that could be made available if you bundled some of these self-service automations together. The final topic for value-add services is transparency as a differentiator. Traditionally, service level reports have been something that are analyzed, prepared, adjusted, and then shared with customers, usually in the form of a PDF or something similar, sent to a customer contact email address. Those reports that may or may not be reviewed by the customer, and I can tell you it's more often they're not, they sit in the inbox. They're never opened. It's a legacy data push approach, and it's something we hear a lot about at Avantra. Can your software send out a PDF of the last 30 days of system availability to a distribution list? Of course we can, but it's not the right thing to do. Our expectations as digital consumers have grown exponentially over the last 2 decades. We now pull information from anywhere, at any time, on our smartphones in the blink of an eye. But if you said to the average consumer today that they had to go back to only receiving the news via a newspaper once a day in the morning and it would only cover the previous day's news, it would simply be unacceptable. You can think along these same lines in how you provide SAP operations information to your customers and bring real-time and relentless transparency into how you are operating customer landscapes. Think real-time dashboards, up-to-the-minute SLA compliance percentages, so much more. Sure, this allows the customer to see if things are not as they should be, but it also demonstrates a level of complete transparency and trust in the customer partnership that will benefit you in the long run. So when it comes to value-added services and what you can be thinking about, think about topics like I've covered here. What proactive services can you provide, like the SAP Hot News example? How can you showcase your commitment to increased flexibility while reducing cost in the self-service automation area? And finally, transform your customer experience through relentless transparency that will drive a closer partnership with each of your customers. Each of these examples can cost nearly nothing to provide, but drive significant value for your customer base. If you embrace topics like these, you will absolutely be delivering a next generation of sophistication within your services, and you will lead the market. So what have we covered so far? We talked about adopting an automation-first approach when it comes to SAP operations for your customers and gaining up to 50% of your time back. We've talked about value-add services and leveraging modernized operations practices and platforms to step change the customer experience and allow you to deliver packages of upsell and value-add services to your customers. So that leaves us with the final topic for today's session, innovation. The term innovation has come to mean so many different things, and often it's actually a paralyzing term, as it's associated with massive and major impact changes that are obvious and can be tagged with the term innovation. This leaves people struggling with how to start innovating, and the truth is that innovation comes in all shapes and sizes. Much of what I've described here today could be considered innovative for the SAP operations world, and it is. To an MSP that doesn't have complete automation of their SAP daily checks, the concept of achieving this would be innovative. Or perhaps the example we discussed earlier, where you can give self-service automation access to your own customers. That is innovative. The point I'm trying to make here is that the concept of innovation can be as big or as small as you need it to be, as long as you're striving to hit at least one of the 3 themes I mentioned at the outset today. If you are, you're on the right track. Are you improving your service quality for your customers? Are you creating something like a value-add service that enables you to land and expand within your existing customers or further support ongoing sales processes? And are you providing a next generation of sophistication within your services to lead the market? But now I want to speak briefly about what all of this means in real terms. If everything we've talked about falls into the innovation category, then what's left to discuss? It's got to be about how you facilitate innovation in your business. If you're given back up to 50% of your time to your most valuable senior resources, then innovation becomes about enabling them to do something great with that time. To allow them to achieve this greatness, you need a few things. Firstly, the mechanism to deliver on your automation first and value-add service strategy. And that means the platforms, the processes, and executive support to make these things a reality. If you want to innovate, you must achieve the time savings and level of automation that will enable you to do so. And you can't make that jump alone. Bring in the best-in-class tools and tried and tested process changes that will impact your services positively and scale with you as you evolve. Secondly, give explicit permission for the team to pursue innovation as long as it's in the context we've discussed here: service quality, delivering value-add services, and bringing the next generation of sophistication. And number 3, make sure you talk about this journey with your customers by showing them the investment you're making and the shift in mentality. You'll get invaluable suggestions and goodwill as you make this transition. Some of the best automation and value-add service suggestions will be from your customers. After all, they're on the receiving end of your services and know how you can improve, and they think they know what they need. And perhaps you can provide that as well. So let's recap on what we've covered today in this SAP Operations Transformation Masterclass focused on managed services providers. We spoke first about the theme of improving service quality and how shifting the mindset of how you deal with customer requests today with a small process addition can inform a roadmap of automation, which is also a roadmap for improving your service quality. Do this right, and you can see up to 50% of time returned to your most valuable resources, allowing them to focus on new and innovative value-add services for your customers. Next, we spoke about how to drive retention, upsell, and new business through new value-add services that could ultimately cost you very little to provide. Topics like proactive security responses for Patch Tuesdays or self-service automation access for your customers. These can be part of a larger service menu that can ultimately differentiate you from your competition. Finally, we spoke about innovation and how you can leverage that 50% of time to drive the next generation of sophistication in your customer experience, powered by all the other topics like automation and value-added services. Just make sure you have the tools, processes, executive support, and finally, the explicit permission for your teams to be successful. Thank you for joining me today, and good luck.